So I want to talk about white slip. This is Archie Bray fine white slip. I don't know what the F means, but it's a stick to anything white slip. And I want to show you that this isn't a square bucket. It's probably the only thing with a label in the glaze room that's in a square bucket. Slip is different than glaze, and because you guys are starting to save some of your pieces, I want you to start experimenting with the white slip. Here I have thrown a cylinder on the wheel. This clay is still wet. I could stick my finger through it. But I did make it maybe an hour ago, so the skin on here has set up. So the next thing I want to do is find a brush that's decent and clean. I rinsed all the iron out of this brush before I put it in a bucket of white slip. You need to make sure you're not contaminating the slip bucket. Next, I'm just going to take out as much as I think I'm going to need. So I'm using this as a scoop. And my bucket that I'm putting it into has been cleaned and rinsed as well. Again, I don't want to contaminate. This is a really nice white slip, so I want it to be as white and bright as I can have it. So I got a few globs in there. And then if I'm done with this, I would return this back to the glazing room so other people can use it, making sure that the lid's firmly attached. So next, I'm just going to stir it up and make sure there's no major lumps and bumps. So you can pretty much see how there's some lumps and bumps in there still. But once it's all looking pretty creamy and smooth, I might have to take that out. I'll have to talk to our techs about sifting. That's alright. But anyway, I'm just going to brush this on while the wheel's turning. And this is just one way you can apply this. So it's on wet clay. Jason, do you know what the F means on Archie Bray F slip?
Foundation.
Huh?
I think it's foundation.
Oh, it's a foundation white slip?
Archie Bray Foundation.
That's a good name. So I'm putting on the foundation right now. It's kind of like gesso on a canvas. And just like gesso, you can work with brush strokes and texture. This one I'm just making it pretty straightforward. I kind of want it thick enough to where I'm not gonna see any of the clay. If the pressure of your brush is so great that it's scraping the slip off, just lighten up a little bit. So I'm just gonna let this stiffen up so that when I touch it, I'm not gonna smear it or leave any fingerprints. So that's white slip on wet clay. We can also put wet slip on leather. So, as an example, this T-bowl right here was just trimmed a moment ago. So this clay is still soft and pliable, but it's a firm leather, And this cup has been thrown on the wheel. It's got some scratches and marks. I might just put another mark over here with just one area of white. So I'm going to create a contrast. So here, already trimmed it. It's firm. Maybe I'll just give it one brush stroke right there. Now I'm going to wait for that to firm up. Or I could just leave it like that and take this to the kiln and bisque fire it. And anyway, you don't have to cover the whole thing. So I'm just going to set that aside and show you again. You can even put slip on bone dry. So these were trimmed like 2 days ago. And these are bone dry now. And I have honestly never used this slip. But from what I hear, it'll stick to anything. So I'm going to get another big glob of this and just put it on bone dry. So I'm deliberately laying this on thick, okay? Because I kind of want it to crack. So it's not going to crack on this leather. And it's not going to crack on the wet clay over there. But because I just put it on bone dry, I'm guessing that these thick globs might want to crack a little bit. So I'm just going to test that out. This bone dry one, I'm definitely just going to leave it. That's going to go into the kiln without touching. Earlier today, I applied some white slip to some firm leather. So this is a cylinder. I've rolled and tapped the foot. And I brushed this on the wheel just like you saw over there. But this is already dried out to the point where I can handle it without leaving a finger mark. At this point, there's a variety of tools you can use to scratch and cut through this clay. If you just wanted to do a couple of lines, you could use this edge and just start working with a technique called sgraffito. And all this is doing is really just cutting through the white into that iron-bearing stoneware and it's creating a contrast between the light and the dark tones of these two clays. Slip is a clay body that's been liquefied by adding more water. Okay, so that's just one quick way to show how marks could be made through the slip. I might even come back and cross-hatch this. It's important to think about timing when you do these things. So here I've got a really thick brush mark that kind of thins out near the bottom. If I scratched through that when that was wet, it would leave a really wet-looking mark, and it would raise an edge and maybe leave a burr, which could be kind of cool. But you saw how clean these marks become after letting that slip stiffen up. You get a crisper edge to your mark if you let that slip stabilize. Other tools you could use would be a sharpened pencil or the tip of your stick. And with mat. So rather than messing with all of those edges right now, I'm just gonna let those become bone dry and just flick them away. So, have fun, make marks, put slip on things, and then you create contrast. Glaze will look different over this than it will over this. And I'll show you the test tiles in the other room to show you which glazes would look better over the white versus the stoneware.